According to the video, a woman in Shenzhen was pushed to desperation by loans. She was filmed making a phone call at a subway station, crying and screaming in anguish. After crying, she had to pretend as if nothing had happened and continue to take the subway, struggling to make a living. People have expressed their sympathy, commenting, "Just listening to this breaks my heart. These kinds of things can really crush a person. I would break down over 380,000 yuan, let alone 3.68 million yuan. Just hearing that number feels suffocating." China's real estate industry, a long-standing pillar of the economy, is facing a downturn. The past 2 years have seen property developers buckling under massive debts, leading to a decline in housing value. Prices have plummeted by half, prompting a surge of homeowners trying to sell. Despite repeated price reductions, potential buyers remain scarce. Significant price cuts are the only way for many to sell their properties, and even then, homeowners report feeling a deep sense of loss.
The price was really unacceptable. It was really hard to sell this house. I lost a lot of money. Now, I feel like my heart is bleeding. It's just too painful.
The man who filmed this video is from Hubei, China. He shared the challenging process of finally managing to sell his house. His property was in a desirable school district located in the city center. Initially, it was listed for 1.4 million yuan. But over the course of more than a year, as he observed a significant drop in property prices across the board, with many homeowners within his neighborhood also putting their properties up for sale, he had no choice but to adjust his pricing strategy accordingly. Gradually, he lowered the price to 1.15 million yuan. Though there were more prospective buyers, the offers were still very low, with some even offering to cut the price to 700,000 yuan. The agent suggested lowering the price to 900,000 yuan. He was very hesitant to accept this offer, as it was far below his expectations. However, just before the Chinese New Year, his family faced an urgent financial crisis, and he couldn't borrow money from anywhere. Left with no choice, he decided to reduce the price by 200,000 yuan, listing it for 950,000 yuan, which was 130,000 US dollars. The highest offer came from a young couple who bid 850,000 yuan. After negotiating for 3 to 4 hours, the deal was closed at 870,000 yuan. Despite being aware of the real estate market's downturn, he didn't expect such a dramatic price drop. He thought 1.4 million yuan was a very reasonable price, since someone offered more than 2 million yuan for the house in 2017, which he didn't take. The final sale price was a 40% decrease from his expectation. Expressing his sorrow, he said, "The final sale price was far below my expectations. It was devastating." Amidst the bursting of the Chinese real estate bubble, numerous homeowners in China find themselves grappling with unprecedented challenges. On February 25, 2024, my house was finally sold at a price that was difficult to accept. It was a truly significant loss, and even now, thinking about it is still very painful. The woman who filmed the video is from Henan. According to her, the house was purchased in 2016, after including renovations and 7 years of mortgage interest, which amounted to over 400,000 yuan. The house's total cost came to 1.36 million yuan. Between 2018 and 2019, the house could have sold for 1.8 million yuan. Initially, she thought she could sell it for 1.2 million yuan, but there were very few people interested. Half a year later, the real estate agent advised her to lower the price. As she needed to sell it urgently, she reduced it by another 50,000 yuan, listing it at 1.15 million yuan. However, there were still very few potential buyers. One of them even offered to lower the price to 800,000 yuan, and another to 500,000 yuan. She said, "I was so angry I could have gone mad." Following the agent's advice, she lowered the price to 1 million yuan, but although there were more showing interest, no offers were given. Eventually, she reluctantly reduced it to 950,000 yuan, and the house sold for 850,000 yuan, about 120,000 US dollars. Due to a personal situation, I defaulted on my payments, and my house has been seized by the bank. Now, not only do I have to carry the burden of loans for a lifetime, but I have to pay various fees. I honestly just want to end my life so I can escape from everything. If I hadn't bought the house with a fluke mentality back then, I wouldn't have had such a huge burden now. It's too late for regrets. This is a 3-bedroom, 2-living-room house with an area of approximately 110 square meters. The price at that time was 1.6 million yuan. The down payment plus taxes and fees were nearly 400,000 yuan, and only 6,000 yuan loan repayment per month was required. At that time, I thought I had struck a great deal. Because my husband and I together earned more than 20,000 yuan each per month, I thought I didn't have to worry about not being able to repay the loan. However, with the outbreak of the pandemic in China and significant downturn in the Chinese economy, this woman revealed that starting from 2022, there were massive changes in their work and business. She and her husband experienced massive layoffs at their company and both lost their jobs. They initially managed to pay the mortgage monthly, but the economic downturn made it impossible to find new jobs. They had to rely on odd jobs to maintain basic living standards, but with highly unstable income, they are now unable to afford their loan payments. She thought that defaulting on the mortgage would only mean losing the house, but the situation turned out to be much more complicated than anticipated. After defaulting for more than half a year, the bank sued her, so not only was the house seized, but all her bank accounts were frozen, and she couldn't even spend the money in her WeChat or Alipay accounts. She incurred an additional cost of over 100,000 yuan, including penalties and legal fees. She lamented, now not only is the down payment gone, but the total losses have amounted to over 1 million yuan. For an ordinary person, it would take many years to repay this amount. It's reported that many homeowners in the same neighborhood are facing similar situations. House prices fell from 15,000 yuan per square meter to 8,000 yuan, and even selling at a loss attracted no buyers. The family's savings are about to vanish into thin air, and I deeply regret it. The woman revealed that when she bought the house in 2018, the housing market was on the rise, and prices were particularly high. For a 140 square meter house with 2 parking spaces, the total cost was 2.6 million yuan. Now, housing prices have fallen by at least half. To make matters worse, her family's business has collapsed, leaving them unable to afford the high monthly mortgage payments. Her husband has tried to sell the house, but it's simply impossible. Even if they managed to sell it, the proceeds wouldn't cover the bank loan, leaving them not only with nothing, but also owing the bank an additional 450,000 yuan. In desperation, the woman said that in order to buy the house, she and her husband sold their 2 houses in their hometown and even pooled in all of their savings from her in-laws. But within just a few years, they've lost more than 1 million yuan on the house. Including the interest on the mortgage, it's as if they worked for nothing for 20 years. Similar situations are prevalent in her community, with other homeowners facing business shutdowns or unemployment, all in significant financial shortage. Amid China's economic downturn, Chinese authorities are ramping up efforts to rescue the real estate market, initiating a series of stimulation measures. In late February this year, the People's Bank of China announced the largest ever cut in the prime rate for loans of 5 years or more, reducing it from 4.2% to 3.95%. Additionally, the 6 major state-owned banks were ordered to provide loans to high-quality real estate projects, those on the whitelist. However, analysts believe that even such unprecedented actions may have limited effects. China's real estate market is still struggling as potential buyers adopt a wait-and-see approach. This cautiousness has resulted in a substantial decrease in housing sales. According to the preliminary data from the China Real Estate Information Corp, (CRIC), reported by Bloomberg, February saw a dramatic 60% drop in sales of new homes in comparison to the previous year. Sales by China's top 100 real estate companies fell to 185.9 billion yuan, approximately $25.8 billion US dollars. The sharp decline follows a 34.2% decrease in sales recorded in January compared to the year before. CRIC has indicated that housing supply and demand are expected to see some recovery in March. However, the downward trend in comparison to the same period last year may persist as measures to restore market confidence take time to materialize. The ongoing downturn in real estate sector, a pillar of China's economic growth, continues to challenge the country's economic expansion. This has put tremendous pressure on real estate developers struggling to pay off debts and complete construction projects. Bloomberg quoted market analysts saying that the drop in housing prices and increased unemployment means the Chinese government needs to introduce stronger stimulus measures. Reports indicate that China's real estate market is in a prolonged crisis with falling house prices, developers in debt, and frustrated buyers. There's external concern that the collapse of the real estate sector could drag down the already weak economic recovery. The China Index Academy released a report on February 29th detailing the sales performance of China's real estate sector. The 2024 January-February China Real Estate Enterprise Sales Performance Ranking revealed that over the first 2 months of this year, sales from China's top 100 real estate companies fell to 476.2 billion yuan. This is a 51.6% drop compared to the same timeframe last year. Additionally, February sales were 29.3% lower than January sales. The ranking showed that 14 real estate companies had sales exceeded 10 billion yuan, which is 12 fewer than the same period last year. There were 8 companies with sales over 5 billion yuan, 18 fewer than the previous year. China Index Academy reports that during the Chinese New Year period, the real estate market saw more browsing, less buying, indicating that promotional activities by housing companies struggled to change the cautious sentiment of homebuyers. Data from the Institute showed that during the 2024 Chinese New Year holiday period, February 10th to February 17th, the average daily transaction area of new homes in 25 representative cities dropped by about 27% compared to the previous year's holiday period. The New York Times quoted chief economist for Asia at Natixis, Alicia Garcia Herrero, who said that the current real estate downturn in China is the longest on record, and it is not only continuing but also accelerating. The market has not yet bottomed out, and there is still a long way to go. Nikkei Asia published an article stating that the weak sales in China's real estate industry have led to a significant increase in housing inventory. It may take at least 5 years for the market to absorb these houses. CNBC, citing economists, reported that this digestion period could extend beyond 10 years. As the issue of housing oversupply becomes increasingly severe, housing prices in almost all Chinese cities are declining, a phenomenon commonly referred to on the internet in China as both quantity and price falling. Nikkei quoted a salesperson from Country Garden in Nanchong, Sichuan, saying, "This 110 square meter apartment is now nearly 620,000 yuan, about $86,300 US, a 22% reduction from the original price. If you're interested, we can still negotiate on the price." Due to financial constraints, this apartment developer is conducting a clearance sale. A manager at CSCI, Pengyuan Credit Rating Company, reported to Reuters that the overall demand in China's real estate market is weak, especially in some smaller cities. The increasing number of second-hand homes on the market will further drive down housing prices this year. With the Chinese real estate market facing severe inventory saturation, developers and homeowners are competitively lowering prices to sell their properties. Nikkei noted that the method for calculating excess housing is by subtracting the area of sold houses from the area of newly built houses. By the end of 2023, China's excess housing area was close to 5 billion square meters. Based on an average of 100 square meters for a family of 3, the current excess housing area in China could accommodate 150 million people or 50 million families. Since China's regulatory authorities began implementing new measures to deleverage and reduce debt risks in the real estate industry in 2020, the enthusiasm for building houses in China's real estate sector has already started to cool down. However, due to sluggish sales, the number of available houses has continued to increase. In 2023, the total residential sales area was 940 million square meters, which is roughly a 40% plunge from the 1.56 billion square meter peak in 2021. Today, China's economy is in serious trouble. At the beginning of this year, due to concerns about a slowdown in growth and deepening deflation to unprecedented levels since the global financial crisis, China's stock market fell to a 5-year low. This has reignited memories of the turbulence experienced in 2015 when policymakers were compelled to take action in response to the situation at that time. Senior China economist at Commerce Bank, Tommy Wu, reported to Reuters that the last time Chinese leaders faced this kind of pressure was in 2015. He added that 2024 is a crucial year for stabilizing China's economy. However, the current situation is much more complex. China overcame the 2015 crisis by devaluing the yuan, tightening capital accounts to prevent capital outflows, investing resources in real estate and infrastructure, and cutting interest rates by more than 100 basis points. However, these policy tools are now depleted, altered, or damaged, which makes the options available to the authorities highly limited. The authorities need to repair the stagnant economy and find ways to break the self-imposed vicious cycle between declining consumer and investor confidence and economic growth. Since 2021, the real estate market has plummeted due to developers facing a series of defaults after years of excessive leveraging and poor investments. High levels of local government debt also make it difficult to sustain infrastructure spending. As the interest rate gap with other economies continues to widen, further easing monetary policy might lead to a run on the yuan assets. Additionally, the influx of cheap credit into overcapacity industrial parks could exacerbate deflationary pressures. David Lubin is a senior research fellow at Chatham House and former managing director and head of emerging market economics at Citigroup. He stated in a column that China could fall into a doom loop of deflation and economic weakness.